Many people in our community require the use of prosthetic and orthotic treatment. A prosthetist provides treatment for patients with limb loss. This treatment includes the provision of an artificial limb, known as a prosthesis. An orthotist provides treatment for patients with physical impairments. This treatment includes the provision of an orthopedic brace, known as an orthosis. Both professions require patient assessments, fittings, and follow-up care as part of the treatment process.
I think an aspect of prosthetics orthotics that most people don't understand is that we're quite unique in the fact that we get to see a patient or a client from the very beginning of their treatment process, and you get to be influential and part of the rehab team right through to the end. The really neat thing is that you make lifelong relationships with these people, so those patients become your patients for life, and so you see them ongoing. Even once the rest of the rehab team is gone, you're still involved with their care long term. And in fact, most amputees in particular consider their prosthetist their primary health care provider, the ones that they find a really important part of their care. And orthotically speaking, I think we have a very unique approach to patient care, and that again we see the whole picture from start to finish. We have the ability to modify that treatment program, to make adjustments, to intervene and to make changes, and to go to the table with different types of options for them that are a really important part of taking them to the next level.
About 3.5 months ago I had a skiing accident. They've prescribed me with this knee brace. The foot thing is basically allows me to walk as I would normally without an injury.
An undergraduate degree is a prerequisite to the 2-year diploma program, followed by a 2-year residency. A certification exam must be completed at the end of the residency to ensure qualification.
I like that right away we get our patient experience, and I also like that once a week we get to do rotations around the city, so that we can, for instance, we shadow orthopedic surgeons, physiatrists, physiotherapists, and we get to see patients from a different perspective. So we get to see them from the physiotherapist perspective and from the surgeon perspective, which is interesting when you compare it to how we see it with our own prosthetists and orthotists.
Prosthetic and orthotic practitioners work closely with other healthcare professionals such as physiotherapists and orthopedic surgeons to promote the highest standard of patient care. The field also relies heavily on the support of technicians, who are also specially trained for the prosthetic and orthotic field.
As a technical instructor, I try to teach the complexity of the manufacturing side of our profession. I try to expose them to the vast array of materials and procedures involved, so that they can take that as a working knowledge and be comfortable applying that to their patients.
Every part of it I love. There's the personal satisfaction of actually getting to make something and fabricate something. There's the satisfaction of getting to help somebody in their lives. There's the fact that it's kind of artistic and yet at the same time very engineer-like. Just literally everything about it makes me excited to come to work every single day.
My leg lets me keep up with the other people in my class, especially in PE, and be really good in goalie. And pretty much, yeah, it helps me do most of the things that acquire moving.
The prostheses, it allows me to do anything I want to do. That, to say, I cycle, I jog sometimes, I go in for long walks. It allows me to do my work. I'm on my feet most of the day. It allows me to live.
I would say that it's a creative science and an art that goes together, and you're basically using your knowledge of materials, and you're using your knowledge of biomechanics, you're using your knowledge of physics, but also interpersonal psychology and quality of life kinds of things. You're trying to create a device for somebody that they can actually use to improve their quality of life.
In our P&O profession, the people that get into it they genuinely care about other people, and I think that's a big plus right there. And you know, one of the biggest misconceptions, I think people think that we just, you know, make people arms or legs or give them a brace. We just deliver a product. And to me, it's just really disheartening to hear something like that, because, you know, you develop such great relationships with your patients. And, you know, I think the colleges and the universities are really preparing the students very, very well right now. And there's so much interest in research in our field. And I think it's really good that you have the chance to do a lot of research projects and things yourselves. And with that, I think the future of prosthetics and orthotics is going to be amazing. To me, it's not just doing my job, it's just getting into it. I love it. After all these years, it's just one of the best things, and I'm so happy that I picked this field over other fields.
It's exciting to be a part of this field at a time where there's so much change and so much new technologies coming out, and so it'd be exciting to see where this field is going to head in the future, and it's cool to be a part of.
So hopefully that video gave you a bit of a preview into the world of both somebody who uses a prosthesis or orthosis, or somebody who gets to work with patients, like what we do and what we educate our students to do. On this slide, most of you probably know who is in this image. It is Terry Fox, who's a hero to Canadians for the impact he made related to cancer awareness. But he's also a local hero to those in the prosthetics and orthotics profession because of how he did it. Terry ran across Canada using a prosthetic leg, and one that was actually designed and fabricated here in Vancouver. Although quite dated technology now, our profession helped to play a significant role in his life and enabled him to run all that way. We have the amazing opportunity, as you saw in that video, to help patients just like Terry to achieve their goals and return to a functional life by providing prosthetic and orthotic treatment. So as you saw in the video as well, prosthetists and orthotists design and fabricate custom orthopedic devices, and we get to provide that treatment for the lifetime of those patients quite often. Prosthetists work with those who have experienced limb loss, or who have potentially were born without a limb. And orthotists work with those who have had an injury or a pathology or some other reason why they require some support or bracing. And as you've heard already, it's ever-changing, it's rewarding, and it's challenging on a daily basis. So some fun facts about our program. So it is a combination of art and science, and we really get to work with our mind and our hands and make a difference in someone's lives. As you've heard, we get to build a lifelong relationship with those patients. We really have a lot of different skills and a lot of different areas that our program covers. And that includes things like anatomy, physiology, an understanding of pathology, biomechanics, material sciences, and it all kind of comes together into providing patient care and the best possible treatment for our patients. And, you know, it's really an evolving profession, lots of change happening, research and just developments in prosthetics and orthotics. And it's an exciting time to be a part of it. So some highlights or different aspects of our program that are important to know about. So it is a 2-year program with the summer off in between, so 4 terms in total. We do have 14 students that we take every 2 years. So our program doesn't run annually, it runs every 2 years, with our next intake or next students in the cohort starting in 2024. On top of our weekly courses, we also have weekly clinical rotations where our students get to attend a variety of prosthetic and orthotic clinics around the Lower Mainland, as well as allied healthcare settings like inpatient and outpatient physiotherapy, orthopedic surgery clinics, and a variety of other specialist clinics in allied healthcare that work alongside prosthetists and orthotists. We also have 2 4-week placements, one in prosthetics and one in orthotics, that are located within our 4 terms, which is a really great opportunity to get some hands-on concentrated experience and apply all the skills that you're learning in our program. We have a capstone research project that our students take on and spans kind of the full 2 years, and everything from inception of the idea, looking up some research and literature review, getting ethics approval, and then conducting that research and presenting it to local clinicians and allied healthcare. We also have many students that co-enroll with McMaster University's master's degree in rehabilitation sciences. So that is not mandatory, it is entirely optional, but the two programs do work well aligned. So certainly something to consider as well. So as far as a career outlook or what things look like after graduating from our program, as mentioned in that video, after you graduate from our 2-year program, there is a requirement to do a 2-year paid residency, and that can be done anywhere in Canada, and then write a national certification exam. Most of our graduates, once they become certified, they'll work in either a private clinic or potentially a hospital setting. It's very different across Canada, so it really depends on what the local area is like. And it can be everything from a very small clinic with only one clinician working there, or into a busy clinic with many colleagues, or even maybe a clinic of your own that you own one day. Some of our graduates decide to practice in just prosthetics or orthotics, and some go on to practice in both. So that's an option as well. As far as projected salaries, you can expect residents to make somewhere between 52 to 55,000 upon graduation, and upon becoming certified, up to 55,000, anywhere up to over 100,000, depending on where you find yourself working. And then, of course, if you are a business owner and own a practice, then potentially even more. So a few other pictures that I thought I would share with you just to show you kind of what things look like in terms of the role that we play. So starting from the left and working across, in the first picture here, you see a prosthetist working at a hospital or potentially someone's home, and they're performing an assessment. So an assessment is a big part of what we do, making sure that we have a good understanding of the patient's unique situation, their strength, range of motion, a physical assessment, understanding their medical history, and also their goals. What do they want to accomplish with their prosthesis or orthotic device? And what are the device requirements that they need? So that's an important part of our job, is that initial assessment. In the second picture here, you see that once we've determined what type of treatment to provide, we then will take a shape capture, and that can be in the form of a plaster model like you're seeing here, or it could be a digital scan. We do a lot on the computer as well. Once we have a shape capture of the particular patient, then we fill that up with plaster, or we start working on a digital model. And that's where you see in this third picture here, we adapt that shape to be more functional and more purposeful in terms of where that patient can accept more pressure and require less pressure, things like stability, suspension to make sure it holds on properly. So there's a lot of changes that we make to it from that initial shape capture. And then in the last picture you see is our where we would evaluate the device. And that can be quite a lengthy process and can require a number of visits as we optimize the device in a variety of settings, in standing and walking, in whatever activities the patient may require. And then, of course, after that, we continue to work with that patient on an ongoing basis. So it's not that we finish with it at the device assessment. We continue to see those patients on an ongoing basis for repairs and changes, and as the human body changes, so we've got to keep up with them. And here I've got a student testimonial. This was one of our students from our last graduating class, just this past May. I'll read it aloud to you. There are a couple of different factors that make me really love the profession of P&O. I enjoy the satisfaction of helping others. I like being creative when problem solving, but meticulous with follow through. And I enjoy the variety of working with my head and my hands. The profession allows me to have all of that in one place. I have the ability to connect with patients and help them meet their needs and goals. There's no one way of getting to a final answer when providing a treatment plan. So I get to use my clinical reasoning to decide what the best course of action is, which allows me to be creative. Since the devices are manufactured in-house, I also get to be creative about how those devices are designed in terms of material selection, fabrication techniques, etc. However, once that treatment plan is decided on, I get to be meticulous with the follow-through to ensure the device fits properly and meets the goals of the treatment. All of these factors allow me to work with both my head and my hands. I get to use clinical reasoning and gait analysis to create treatment plans, which is my head. I get to do shape capture, modification, and in some instances fabrication to create the devices, which is my hands. Overall, it creates a very rewarding profession to be a part of.
And we're going
Pass it back to Erin.
to talk a bit about admissions. So now you have an interest in the program and the profession, but now we're going to talk about how do we actually apply to the program. So this program only starts every 2 years. So our next start date for students entering the program will be September 2024, meaning the application period won't be until October 1st, 2023 to March 1st, 2024. So there is lots of time to get all your prerequisites done and to do any necessary volunteer work or other work experience. One thing to note too is the program is currently restricted to residents of Western Canada, and that includes BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So the steps in the application. First, you review the requirements and application dates on our website. So we always have those, the most up-to-date place for them is the website. Convert all your documents, so your transcripts and other documents, to PDF files. Complete the Casper snapshot online, and we'll show you where to get that later. That's at takealtus.com, I believe is the website, and that is a thing that we can talk about a bit more later. I'll get Lauren to talk about it a bit, but you complete that online and then you apply online. The minimum entrance requirements. So I'm going to skip down on the left-hand side halfway first. The first most important thing is that you need to have a bachelor's degree in any field from a recognized post-secondary institution. Bachelor's degree of 120 credits is required before you apply to the program. So that's kind of the most important thing there to note. You do need to have a proficiency in speaking and listening in English, so 2 years of education in English in an English-speaking country. You need to have English Studies 12 from grade 12 at least a 67%. The Casper snapshot I mentioned, and there's a mandatory applicant questionnaire to fill out. This is a competitive entry program, so you're not guaranteed entry based on those requirements. So there's no specific GPA that's required to apply. However, a strong GPA is preferred in that, of course, it shows an aptitude for post-secondary coursework. But grades are only one part of the picture, so we do give preference to applicants with any related experience. Post-secondary academic level courses in anatomy and physiology, chemistry, physics, statistics, psychology. And we do prefer that academics and related experience be completed within the last 5 years so that they're current and recent. So successful applicant profile. What does a successful applicant to the program look like now that I've said it's competitive? So first, of course, a knowledge of the profession via work or volunteer experience. If you've done some volunteer experience or paid work experience involving direct interaction with people with cognitive, emotional, or physical disabilities, that would be great. Most successful applicants at the moment have a GPA of 3.25 or higher. And as I mentioned, some of the preferred courses I mentioned there. Good interpersonal skills are very important for this program. Demonstrated interest in working with people with disabilities, demonstrated interest in the welfare of others, and a professional attitude. You also, because it's hands-on, as we've said, you need to have some manual dexterity, ability to visualize in 3D and problem solve. And it's great if you have a patient and professional and mature outlook on being able to do these things. So that's really important going into the profession. So for your transcripts and documents, as I said before, upload everything online. So you're going to upload digital copies of all of your transcripts. We do not recommend mailing in transcripts anymore. Of course, if you've taken courses at BCIT before, we don't need those transcripts. We already have you on file. So just any transcripts from anywhere else do need to be uploaded online. So the process for admission. First of all, your application comes into our admissions department and they review the applications to make sure that all the base requirements have been met. And then they forward the complete applications to the prosthetics and orthotics department. After the application deadline date, so we don't kind of let people in until we look at all the applications together. So after the application deadline date, the prosthetics and orthotics department will shortlist and select their preferred applicants. You'll then get an acceptance letter and have to pay the commitment fee. So on to BCIT as a whole. BCIT really wants to support all of our students during their time at BCIT. So we do have a number of different student success areas that I'd like to talk about. The first being our Indigenous services. So BCIT's Indigenous Initiatives Department is there for you to ensure a smooth transition into your first year. They offer peer-to-peer mentorship, a welcoming gathering place, and provide clarification on Indigenous funding. BCIT's awards, scholarships, and bursaries are listed on our financial aid and awards page. I would like to mention that we do have a President's Entrance Award that I urge people to take a look at and consider applying for. We also have accessibility services to provide assistance for students with permanent or temporary disabilities. If you've been accepted to a program and believe you might need some accommodation to be successful, I urge you to connect with our accessibility services department. We also have Student Health Services, which is a great full-service health clinic located right on the Burnaby campus. And they provide medical care for current BCIT students year-round. And this is just it's like a walk-in clinic, although you do need to make an appointment with this one. But it's great if you don't have time to see your regular GP, or you don't have a regular GP anymore, as many of us don't anymore, unfortunately. This is just a great resource to have on campus that we really appreciate. We also have our Counseling and Student Development Department that's in the same building as Student Health Services, and they do offer counseling for all BCIT students. And lastly, Recreation Services. They're really here to focus on our physical well-being. So they have a full-service gym with weight room, with cardio machines. They also offer a bunch of classes. There's intramural sports groups available. So there's all kinds of stuff to check out in Rec Services. So the best way, if you have questions that we don't manage to answer tonight, hopefully we will answer quite a few, but if you have questions that after the fact that you didn't get to with us, or you just want to check up on something, the best people to connect with at BCIT are program advising. And you can telephone them, the number on the screen there, there's their hours, they drop in advising, or you can email program_advising@bcit.ca. Now, if you're like me, you find email kind of the easiest way to go about things. But if you want a quick answer, if you want them to respond quickly, it's definitely better to call or go at one of the drop-in times. And in keeping in touch with BCIT, now that you know a bit more about us and the Prosthetics and Orthotics program, we'd love it if you guys could connect with us through some of our social media. Follow us, see what BCIT Health Sciences is all about, see what we're up to. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. If you want to learn more, we do have tours of our campus available. I don't know if Lauren's program participates in the Spend a Day at the moment. We've had some off and ons with that with COVID, so it's been kind of difficult, but that's something we might be able to check out in the future. And then info sessions like this one, and again, connecting with program advising. So I know I went through all of that very quickly, and Lauren gave us a lot of information. So I'm guessing that some of you have questions that you can ask, and we'll answer those in a minute. But I'm also going to leave these email addresses up here. So we've got Lauren's email address directly. So for questions about the program and the profession, Lauren's your person to contact. But questions about admission and application, definitely program advising is your way to go. And I'm going to see if we have any questions. Oh, I do have a question that came in from Angela. And I'm hoping Lauren or Maggie can answer this one. She says, you shared there were 14 students accepted every 2 years. On average, how many applicants do you receive?
Thank you. Yeah, great question. So we have about a 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 ratio of applicants to spots in the program. So over the past couple cohorts, we've had between about 50 and 60 applicants for our 14 spots.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't apply, though. We have a lot of strong applicants that we love. We have some great students in the program, and we always take more. And then Romeo is asking, what previous volunteer work experience do you look for in a strong applicant?
Yeah, so probably the best thing to do would be to be familiar with the prosthetics and orthotics profession. Does a couple things. One is make sure to us, the selection committee, that we know that you know what you're getting into and that you're interested in sticking with it, because we only have 14 spots. So we want to make sure that those spots are people that really want to stick with this profession. The other thing it does is it helps you to make sure that you want to stick with the profession from your end, and get some exposure, and that you see what you are interested in, and you like it, and you want to stick with it yourself. So it certainly plays a role in both sides of things. So if you can find some experience, whether it's work or paid or shadowing or just kind of chatting with a prosthetist or orthotist, that's all great experience. On the flip side, if you're looking more on the allied healthcare side and you have the ability to work with other rehab professionals and people with disabilities, that can also be quite helpful. So I think it's definitely important to get some specific experience or conversation with someone in prosthetics and orthotics, but at the same time, there is an opportunity to gain some experience outside of just our profession.
Great, thank you, Lauren. I'm going to take these questions a bit out of order here because there's a good one from Ethan that I want to answer. Why do you only accept 14 applicants every 2 years and not more?
Yeah, great question. So we're trying to meet the demand of the profession. Certainly there's a growing demand as more and more people require our services. But we also need to keep in check with our national accreditation, which has limitations on number of instructors to student ratio that we can have. So I would love to rapidly expand our program, but we do have some limiting factors in keeping check.
Yeah. Lauren, what's the average age of the students in the program?
So yeah, it spans typically, I would say, about 25 to 35. You know, on the lower end, how quick somebody can get through their undergrad degree. So, you know, closer to that 25-year range. And then definitely we have some applicants that go out and get some life experience, work in a different profession or a related profession, and then come and apply to our program.
Olivia's asking, if I'm doing my undergrad degree in Ontario and I'm graduating in 2024, am I able to apply for the program starting in 2024? My first question for Olivia would be, do you live in Ontario? Are you an Ontario resident, or are you moving back to one of the Western provinces?
Yeah, so building on Erin's response, you know, we define a resident of a Western Canadian province as having lived in that province for 6 months. That being said, if you are taking your undergrad degree outside of Western Canada and have every intention to come back to BC and, to come back to Western Canada and work in Western Canada, then your application would also be considered. If we can see that kind of historical trend that you grew up and took school, you know, elementary school or high school in Western Canada and simply left to do your undergrad degree, then yeah, then we would still consider your application.
For the suggested extra courses, the chem, physics, and stats, can we take those as an unclassified student? I'm not sure what that means, Lauren.
Yeah, I could make the assumption that potentially it doesn't need to make up part of your undergrad degree. So if you've completed your undergrad degree and you're looking to take some additional courses or some of these additional courses afterwards, then yes, that would be perfectly fine as long as you have taken them. Most of our competitive applicants have taken all of those courses. I would say in a class of 14 students, there might be 2, 3 of them that have maybe not taken one of those courses. But for the most part, in order to make sure you have a competitive application, I would recommend trying to take all of those courses or include them in your undergrad degree if you're still working on your undergrad.
Here's a good one from Cindy. Would sports psychology, it's a kinesiology course though, count as a psychology course?
Yeah, great
That's
question.
tricky.
And sometimes there is some gray area in some of these courses as to whether they would be classified as such. So that is one that, yes, we would consider sports psychology as a psychology course. My recommendation would be, if there's any that don't necessarily have the acronyms like psych, for example, to feel free to just include that in the mandatory applicant questionnaire. There should be at least one box that would be any additional information to include. It just makes it a little bit easier for our selection committee to figure out which of those courses you've taken without having to do too much detective work. So if you can make it easy for us, definitely would be beneficial. And that way you can highlight those courses that you've taken.
I just got a message from Ethan directly to me. What is a day-to-day breakdown? Like, what's number of classes, duration of the day? What does your daily schedule look like as a student in P&O?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our program is full. A lot of hours spent during the day. They're full weeks. And I would say that's probably across the board for a lot of BCIT programs. So we have 120 credits in our program, and it's in 2 years. So that's similar to most four-year undergrad programs. That being said, our students love it because it's such an applied program that they're learning about what they're actually going to be doing when they graduate. So at least that's what they tell me anyway. And so it is a pretty full week. I would say you can expect most days kind of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And in that schedule, we've got at least 2 full days of just prosthetic and orthotic courses, half a day of clinical rotations, and then the other kind of 2.5 days or 2 days of some supplementary courses. And of our P&O courses specifically, they're pretty hands-on, lots of labs, lots of working with patient volunteers and actually practicing the skills that you're learning about in class, and learning about how to be a prosthetist and orthotist.
Thank you, Lauren. One more from Trimmy. Dropping rate throughout the course. I'm guessing dropout rate or attrition rate. We don't have much attrition in this program, do we, Lauren?
No, we don't. You know, the last, it's been about 14 years since we've had somebody drop out of the program. And that was because of formerly our program used to have math and physics, and some students struggled a little bit. We've since changed a little bit of the application requirements, and we haven't had any challenges since then.
Wow, 14 years, that's pretty good. Cindy is asking, is there any flexibility in the courses we take? Are there electives for specialization at all, or is it a set course load?
Yeah, for our program, it is a set number of courses. We recognize that some people in their undergrad degrees would have taken similar courses in anatomy, physiology, or biomechanics, or material sciences, things like that. But unfortunately, all of our students do go through all of the courses as a cohort, and learning about how those specific supplementary courses can be applied to prosthetics and orthotics. So it is important that our students go through as a cohort in a set course schedule.
And you'll find that with most BCIT programs, that's the same. Is that we are very big on our cohort model and taking everyone through the same courses together as a group. When completing your required prerequisite courses, if I have taken multiple anatomy and physiology or biomechanics courses, do you consider the one that's most recent for admissions, or how does that work?
Yeah, so when you're applying online to the program, you as the applicant will be essentially self-declaring as to how you meet each of the entrance requirements and also the preferred courses. So we do recommend likely selecting the courses in which you've earned the highest grades, because the grades do matter, and as well, the more recent, the better, we would say. So I would say the most recent, and the courses with the highest grades would be the ones to select there.
Lauren, when you are a student in the program, is there a minimum grade requirement for each grade to pass? What happens if you fall below that? Are you kicked out of the program immediately? Is there room for redemption? How does that work with grades throughout the course?
Yeah, so the majority of our courses have a 50% pass minimum pass. There's a couple of our courses that we have set at 70% minimum pass, but as I mentioned, the majority are at a 50%. And because our courses are very specific to just our program, they're only run every 2 years. So there isn't, unfortunately, a way that we can have students enroll in that same course the very next term and then keep up with the rest of their cohort. In the event that there's extenuating circumstances, sometimes we will be able to support the student through various other projects or exams to ensure that they continue to meet the requirements to move on to the next term, but they can't retake that course, unfortunately.
Oh, and I think this might be another question for Maggie. Anna is saying the school she went to, when her courses first went online for COVID, some of the classes became pass-fail rather than an actual percentage mark. Would it affect her application if she didn't have a percentage grade for some of the suggested courses?
Good. That's interesting. I guess
That is interesting.
yeah, for post-secondary courses, I haven't really heard of that too often, but I guess that's anything's possible during COVID. So admissions does have a way to kind of do those different assessments based on the transcripts, you know, applicants submit, be they percentages, pass, fail, letter grades, etc. So just submit what you have. I mean, ideally, yes, having either a percentage or a letter grade is sort of what you want to have, but if during that period your school only was issuing pass fail, then you'll just need to submit what you can. So I would probably maybe also make a note of that potentially on the mandatory applicant questionnaire as well, that at that time your school was only issuing pass fail grades, just so that can be brought to the program area's attention as well. But yeah, otherwise just submit what you can. And admissions, if they do have any sort of questions or concerns about that, they will reach out to the applicant themselves.
And one final question for you, I think, Maggie, before we're going to wrap it up here. You mentioned that we can declare which course we want to put forward for certain things. Cindy's asking, do you have to choose just one, or can you put forward multiple courses for a requirement?
Yeah, I mean, again, for the preferred courses, you can likely put more than just one, that's fine. So if you had, you know, several courses in psychology, for example, you know, you could put a few down. It actually is probably good, and Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, but it shows, you know, some variety, that you have additional post-secondary, that you've done additional, you know, academics in certain areas. So I would say, yes, you don't have to just indicate one course. If you had more than one course in a certain subject area, you could indicate more for sure, that would be fine.
Yeah, we do go through your transcript with looking quite detailed at it. So we will spot all of your various preferred courses. However, as Maggie said, it doesn't hurt to highlight those ones. And we do make sure that we track down your highest grades in those preferred courses to make sure that those ones rise to the top and are included in our evaluation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. For any further questions, we're going to wrap it up here, but for any further questions, remember you can email Lauren at the email address on the screen, and program advising. Olivia, I know you had a question that kind of snuck in right at the end there, so I would definitely send that question right to Lauren, because that's a good one for him. That's a really good one for him to answer and to maybe set up something and talk to you about. Again, I really want to thank everybody for attending tonight. Really appreciate everyone coming online to learn about our program. And again, as I mentioned in the chat earlier on, you will be sent an email in about a week's time with a copy of this slide deck and with a copy of the video recording that we did for part of this. So that if you have anything you missed tonight, or you have any more questions, you can review that. And please do get in touch with us, ask us any questions through email or online, and we'd appreciate hearing from you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.